Today we're going to do balancing. There we go. Balancing chemical equations. Okay, the last notes that we took, we left off with the lab that we'd watched, and we determined that the law of conservation of mass was observed because what was on the reactant side equaled what was on the product side. Okay, we're all set. So now we're going to look at an example where it's not balanced. So we're going to start not with an example from the video. We're going to watch we're going to do a different one. Okay, so let's say that I have 2Fe 2O3 plus, I'm going to give it to you easy, blank carbon. So I'm going to know that that's where I'm going to put my coefficient. Equals or yields 4 irons plus 3 CO2. Okay, so the first step that you've got to do, so let's skip some space here. So the first step is going to be, so step 1, and we're going to do this in 3 steps. Step 1, what's going on? You're going to count the atoms. And so that's why we spent so much time previously making sure we knew how to count the atoms. So the way I want you guys to count the atoms is we're going to set up, so here's my yield sign. So I'm going to draw a line down here. So on this side, I'm going to label that these are my reactants. My reactants react and they form something new. These are my products. So you're going to make sure you know those. So I'm going to count my atoms. So first I'm going to identify what I have. So I've got Fe, which is iron. I have an oxygen. And I have carbon. So in this plus sign here, so this is a molecule, and then here I've got an element. So I'm going to do the exact same letters in the same order. So sometimes, so I'm going to do Fe, I'm going to do my iron here. Now carbon is listed next, but I'm going to keep it in the same order. Oxygen and carbon. And now I'm going to count my atoms to see if they're balanced. So I have this coefficient here and my subscript here. So this I distribute. So 2 times 2, I have 4 irons. Now there's no plus sign. I know I wrote this a little bit spaced, but this is all one molecule because there's no plus sign. So this 2 is also going to distribute to this oxygen here. So 2 times 3, I have 6 oxygens. There's no coefficient, no subscript. Right now I've got 1 carbon. So now I'm going to go to my product side and count. No subscript, but I've got a coefficient, so 4 irons. I've got a plus sign, so this 4 does not reach beyond here. That 4 stops with that plus sign. But now I have this coefficient, so I have 3 carbons, so 3 times the invisible 1, 3 carbons. And now I'm going to go 3 times 2, I distribute this coefficient, I've got 6 oxygens. So now, the second step, well, count atoms, and I see my 4s are equal, my oxygens are equal, my carbons are not. So the step 2 is I'm going to change the coefficient, and only the coefficients. You cannot change the subscript. Now in this one I've made it a little simple that we're only changing one, and I'm telling you even which one it is. So you're going to do it by trial and error. So for this one, okay, what coefficient would I put here so that I would have 3? So that's going to be 3. So now I'm going to recount everything. I know this is 4, this is going to be 6 because I haven't messed with that. So now I've got 3 carbons. Haven't changed anything here. So now, so my step 3, I'm going to do it as step 3. I'm going to recount and adjust as needed. Now, sometimes when you're balancing equations, you're going to have to change more than one subscript. They get pretty complicated. We're not going to do parentheses, so we're going to keep it just as looking at the coefficients, but making sure you count the subscripts as well. Okay, so now let's practice in class.